We're just starting. I'll be there.
All righty, good to go.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Dill, Chair of the ACF Committee, and I want to welcome everyone here to our ACF Committee. And we have 5 public hearings scheduled for the day. And my first thing is I do have a question for Cheryl. And Cheryl, the schedule that you put out had 103, 268, and down through. But Representative O'Neill pointed out to me that she thought in another place she saw that the other 3 bills, 322, 381, and 416 were listed at 9, and 103 and 268 were listed at 9:30.
Right, that's because 103 and 268 were the snow day.
I know
so
that.
in order to get that into the schedule, we had to put it at a different time.
Okay. So
I
then,
don't, yeah,
so I guess the question is, it's kind of up to us in which order to go in.
exactly.
And so I was just going to follow along with the schedule here. But before we get to that, I'll just quickly go down through as I usually do, just to let folks know that certainly this is a public hearing today. As I mentioned, we have 5 bills to do, and we will probably we'll figure the order out here in a couple of minutes. It's an electronic meeting, as everybody knows by now, I hope, unless you're new to us. It's live stream, so we apologize if we have glitches, because there are occasionally glitches with this. And if you're going to speak, make sure you unmute yourself when you go to speak. Otherwise, please keep yourself muted because of background noise, etc. And make sure you also that your name is correct underneath your picture as to who you are, that it doesn't say Jim's iPad or something like that, that it actually says who you are, especially if you're testifying or whatever, so we know who's here. The process will be, we'll start with the sponsor, followed by any co-sponsors and legislators who wish to speak on that particular bill, then followed by the department, and then finally by the general public. And you are limited to 3 minutes for your testimony. I have a timer. Hopefully you'll hear it ding, but I will ask you to finish it up when it goes off. And we'll go mostly in order of proponents first, opponents, and then followed by either on or against. Unless we have a lot of people testify, then we may mix it up a little bit. With that, as I said, make sure you're unmuted. That's the most important part, I think. And Representative O'Neill and I, unfortunately, have to be the background police and look to see if there's anything inappropriate, like, already pointed out, warning Representative Underwood that there's a bear about to eat him or something like that, so that we'll keep everything in line. We do have 1-800 numbers, so if you want to testify by phone, you can do it that way. And only committee members can ask questions. And so with that, we'll go around and introduce ourselves, and I'll go across the screen as I see folks. So first I see Representative McCray.
Yes, good morning. I'm Dave McCray, up in the Great White North in Fort Fairfield in District 148, and happy to be here this morning. Good morning.
Next is Senator Black.
Good morning, Senator Black. Representing Senate District 17, which is all of Franklin County and 4 towns in Kennebec.
Representative Hall.
Yes, good morning. Representative Randy Hall, representing District 114, 6 towns in southern Franklin County.
Representative Underwood.
I'm Representative Underwood from Presque Isle. It's be nice to have a nice trip up this afternoon. Thank you.
Representative Landry.
Good morning, Representative Scott Landry from Farmington. I represent District 113, Farmington, New Sharon.
Representative Osher.
I am Representative Lori Osher. I represent most of Orono, District 123.
Senator Maxman.
Hi, I'm Chloe Maxman. I represent Senate District 13, which is all of Lincoln County except for Dresden, plus Washington and Windsor, 27 towns in the Mid-Coast.
House Chair O'Neill.
Good morning. My name is Maggie O'Neill. I represent House District 15, which is in Saco.
Representative Pluker.
Hi, I'm Bill Pluker. I represent Warren, Hope, Appleton, and part of Union. Thanks for having me.
And our clerk today is Cheryl McGowan, and she's the one that makes all these things run smoothly. And our analyst is Karen Neto, who takes notes on all this stuff and then recaps everything for our work sessions. And I'm Jim Dill. I'm the Senate Chair. I represent Senate District 5, Northern Penobscot County. And I would go back to Cheryl now. Well, I won't. I think we'll just go ahead right in order of the way I have them listed on our sheet, which would be 103, 268, 322, 381, and 416. So if there's no objections from the committee, we'll just take them right in that order. And with that, I will turn it over to Representative Pluker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just saying I am supposed to present LD 103 today, but I might have to get in the car later. So if it was possible to move it up in the order.
103 is first, actually.
Oh, great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, because I think they've just been listed in two different places at different times. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So with that, I'll turn it over to Representative O'Neill to run the first couple of hearings.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am pulling up the first one. So now I will open the hearing on LD 103, which is an act to improve the animal welfare laws, sponsored by Representative Pluker of Warren. Call upon the sponsor.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Good morning, Senator Dill, Representative Neal, and all of my fellow members of ACF Committee, Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee. I'm Representative Bill Pluker from Warren, and I represent House District 95. Today, I'm introducing LD 103, an act to improve the animal welfare laws. The Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry's Animal Welfare Program ensures the humane and proper treatment of animals. The program upholds the animal welfare laws of the state through communication, education, and enforcement. The work of the program spans from responding to complaints of animal cruelty to inspecting and licensing boarding kennels, breeding kennels, animal shelters, pet shops, and research facilities, to administer state animal control officer training and certification, among many other tasks. Like any program with broad responsibilities, the Animal Welfare Program is constantly seeking ways to improve or enhance its policies and programs. In order to do so, from time to time, governing statutes also need to be amended to reflect changes occurring on the ground. I support LD 103 as it attempts to modernize select areas of Title VII that will allow the program more resources to do its job effectively. In particular, LD 103 proposes allowing the department to call and designate assistance when dealing with responses to disasters or complex cruelty cases, to expand the qualifications of 2 members of Animal Welfare Advisory Council, and otherwise make modest yet important changes to laws impacting rabies vaccination, dangerous dog licensing, and animal abandonment. These are not sweeping policy changes, but rather programmatic improvements that will allow the Animal Welfare Program to be more effective and efficient in its work every day. I'll be followed by folks in the department who are much more knowledgeable of this bill than myself, and very capable of answering your questions, though happy to entertain questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Pluker. Does anyone on the committee have questions for the sponsor? All right, seeing none, thank you for your testimony. I want to open it up to any co-sponsors that might be here. Doesn't look like we have any. And now I want to welcome the department up, please. Is it Liam Hughes here, Mr. Hughes? Now I see you, Liam. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and honorable members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Liam Hughes. I am the Director of Animal Welfare for the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry, speaking in support of LD 103 and Act to Improve Animal Welfare Laws. We'd like to thank Representative Pluker for sponsoring this bill. This bill proposes several changes to animal welfare laws to help make the program more efficient. The department has put forward this bill based on comments and in consultation over the past several years with community partners, including veterinarians, boarding kennel owners, animal control officers, animal shelter managers, as well as law enforcement and emergency management agencies. First, Section 3906B proposes establishing the department's right to call for and designate assistance when dealing with responses to disasters or complex cruelty cases. To explain why the need for this new section, let me describe a 2019 seizure conducted by animal welfare agents involving 175 animals, mostly dogs. With help from emergency management agency animal response teams from 3 different counties, we constructed a temporary emergency shelter to house and care for most of the dogs. Despite the assistance of so many, however, we faced overall shortage of staff and primarily relied on volunteers. Program staff spent a lot of time training new volunteers. This is not an efficient or effective way to staff a complicated disaster response exercise. As a result, this bill proposes allowing the department to employ external qualified persons to assist in such a natural or man-made disasters involving animals. Note that this section is modeled after the Maine Forest Service process to recruit firefighters during a forest fire emergency. Next, Section 3906C and Section 3907 propose changes to the Animal Welfare Advisory Council, which is known as AWAC, to allow for qualified stakeholders to participate on the council. The pet shop representative has never been filled for lack of interest. Expanding the option to include stores that sell pet supplies may expand the pool of candidates and provide additional stakeholder input to AWAC. Next, because few lawyers in Maine have animal welfare legal experience, we are suggesting broadening the legal representation on board to include attorneys with prosecutor training. Pardon me. Given the complexity of animal welfare cases within the criminal system, this additional viewpoint will help augment AWAC. This bill also proposes the following. Section 3916 will modify the rabies vaccination requirements to reflect current science and the proper use of rabies vaccinations as recommended by the Maine Rabies Working Group, which is made up of government, private, and nonprofit stakeholders who have an interest in rabies control and response in Maine. This change is also recommended by the National Association of State Public Health Veterinarians and the American Veterinary Medical Association. It's also already in effect in 22 other states. The department has responded to requests made by countless practicing Maine veterinarians over the year. Changes made in 2018 to the laws related to dangerous dog licenses were not reflected in Title VII at that time. The proposed changes to 3923G will now require that any owner of a dangerous or nuisance dog register the dog in person and not online. 3950-A proposes strengthening penalties against animal control officers who are found to be negligent in their duties. Presently, animal control officers who violate their duties under Title VII may still work as an ACO. Chapters 719, 720, 721, 725, 727. This new penalty proposes revoking their ACO certification if they are found guilty of failure to neglect of duty. Finally, the bill proposes a change to Title 17 dealing with animal abandonment. Specifically, we are including a new definition of animal care facility. Currently, only dogs and cats can be abandoned at certain locations. These locations are able, after certain steps, to adopt, sell, or place the animals with a licensed animal shelter. By better defining animal care facilities, we can include non-traditional pets such as birds, horses, exotic animals, thereby helping a broader population of abandoned animals. Thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have at this time or at the work session.
Thank you, Director Hughes, for your testimony. Do I see any questions from committee members? Senator Black.
Thank you, Liam, for being here. And this bill seems to be trying to take care of multiple issues within the welfare system. One that I've had constituents bring up to me, and I'm not sure if this is a place to do it or not, but I have, for instance, I have a person that when you call them, they take in dogs, cats, you know, and they're not an animal shelter, but they work for you and they board them and take care of them until you get court dates or whatever. And the issue they've been having is the lack of, you know, the state will pay for a certain length of time, but then because of the court system and other issues, it just seems like it goes on and on before that they can adopt these animals out or get rid of them, you know. Is there any way that we can look into that and see if we can tighten up the length of time that they have to hold them before they can do something with those animals?
Actually, we already did that 2 years ago. It was put into law saying that we should have a possession hearing within 30 days of the seizure. Unfortunately, due to COVID and due to court issues, we have not been able to truly enforce that section of the law yet. So there was an attempt to address that issue. If there are animals in custody, so long as they're in custody relating to a case that animal welfare has, we are paying those bills right up until the time that they are signed over to us. So we do not, you know, just only pay for a few months. We take care of the animals from start to finish.
Thank you.
All right. Do I see any other questions from committee members? All right. Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Hughes, for your testimony.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. Good to see you. All right. Next on the list, I see Eric Stoops from Windsor.
He is against. Do you want to take the
I apologize. I'm just going in order the way the list was presented. All right. So the first in favor is Catherine Severall from Maine Veterinary Medical Association.
Hi, can everyone see me?
Yes.
Hi.
Morning.
Thank you. Chairman Dill, Chairman O'Neill, and members of the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I'm Catherine Severall, the Executive Director of the Maine Veterinary Medical Association. The Maine Veterinary Medical Association is in support of LD 103 with a proposed amendment described in this testimony. To the first part of the proposed bill, we fully support the state having more options during an emergency situation that involves animals. It is vital that the state is able to have the ability to help any animal involved and be able to hire additional individuals if needed to participate in providing emergency assistance. The next aspect of the bill changes the rabies vaccination requirement for dogs. The language here matches the language used in the cat subsection of the statute, and it also matches the Maine rabies management guidelines. Maine is importing a significant number of dogs from out of state into its shelters and communities, and it's imperative that these dogs are vaccinated from rabies before arrival, and that they're the right age when this happens. In addition, we live in a rural state where we still have rabies positive animals every year. Vaccinating puppies at the right age and young enough will prevent exposure risks and quarantines. There are debates within the field of veterinary medicine about the best time to vaccinate cats and dogs for the best immune response. The data and results currently point to 12 weeks for the rabies vaccine to be appropriate for both cats and dogs, but these recommendations can change based on new research. Current research indicates that the concern for maternal antibodies interfering with vaccination in young animals is not the same with rabies as it is with other vaccines, where some of the research is pointing towards 16 weeks being more appropriate. And as Mr. Hughes pointed out, in addition, other states have the same statutory language that this bill is proposing. So we believe that the proposed language would still allow for veterinarians to administer the vaccine at what they determine to be an appropriate age for a specific patient, which may at times be closer to 16 weeks of age, depending on how the science sort of evolves, as this is something that's changing. We think that the current language allows that flexibility, and we do ask for consideration in rulemaking and enforcement that this would maintain the ability for a veterinarian to be able to make the best and safest recommendations for age of vaccination on an individual patient basis. We also recommend dogs being added to the exceptions in subsection 4, and we've attached the language to our testimony that we're recommending. Subsection 1A, as proposed, does reference this subsection, and dogs were not added to it. So right now it's just specifies cats, even though this dog subsection is referencing, is being referenced. So as a practicing veterinarians around the state, there are cases, know that there are cases where patients can't be vaccinated. So it's vital that this exemption exists for dogs as well as cats. And currently the state does accept waivers for dogs and uses the same form as cats from the rabies management guidelines document. So this change would just bring the law into alignment with what the current government practices and private practitioners are doing. So in summary, we encourage approval of this bill in full to add dogs to the exceptions of subsection 4, Title 7. So thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Great, thank you for your testimony. Do I see any questions from committee members? Senator Black, please.
Thank you, Catherine. I've had several dog breeders speak to me about this bill and with concerns of moving the vaccinating date to 3 months instead of 6 months. But in your testimony, it seemed to sound like that you were okay with some wiggle room there. They were concerned that certain puppies were, with all the puppy shots they get, at 6, 8, and 12 weeks, that was, adding the vaccine at 3 months would be too much. Can you answer that question?
We feel that the language does allow some flexibility. I believe, I don't have it right in front of me, but I believe it says that the keeper of a dog that is 3 months old shall get that dog vaccinated for rabies. So we believe that would allow for someone who has a 3-month-old dog to make an appointment with their veterinarian. Maybe they don't actually receive the vaccine for 2 weeks past that 3-month age. It doesn't say by 3 months old. It says a keeper of a dog of 3 months old shall vaccinate that dog for rabies. So we feel that is enough flexibility, and we just ask that flexibility be retained and possibly in rulemaking that be considered.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I see any other questions from committee members? All right, seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
All right, next up, I have Katie Hansberry from the Humane Society.
All right. Good morning. Thank you, Representative O'Neill. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Katie Hansberry, and I am the Maine State Director for the Humane Society of the United States. On behalf of the Humane Society of the United States and our Maine supporters, I want to thank Representative Pluker for sponsoring this bill, and I respectfully urge you to vote ought to pass on LD 103 as it makes important updates to Maine's animal welfare laws. Section 2 of the bill would provide the state with a mechanism to employ individuals deemed, quote, necessary to assist in a response to a natural or man-made disaster affecting animals, end quote. I was among the many volunteers who assisted the state with providing care for a large number of collies and Dobermans at an emergency shelter following their removal from a property in July of 2019. The setup and operation of the emergency shelter was a massive undertaking. Even with the incredible work of the dedicated volunteers from the state county animal response teams, animal shelters, rescues, folks from the Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, Department of Transportation. It was a huge team effort. However, it quickly became clear that it would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to keep the emergency shelter operating long-term. As a result, I coordinated with animal shelters across the state to find placements for dogs among them. And within a few weeks, all of the dogs had been moved out of the emergency shelter. However, that is not always going to be possible, especially as Senator Black pointed out, it's often the case that it can take a very long time for cases to be resolved through the court system. And for example, right now, there are currently state-seized Great Danes that have been in the care of some of Maine's animal shelters for more than a year. They were seized back in January of 2020. And so to Senator Black, to the point that you raised, I don't know if this is the appropriate place to have this discussion, but as Director Hughes pointed out, we did make an effort to move these cases through the court system more quickly. However, that hasn't been able to be enforced, but maybe one thing that could be looked at as part of this bill could potentially be an increase in the reimbursement that the folks taking care of these animals receive. I think right now it's only $5 a day for each animal. Accordingly, allowing the state a way to compensate skilled individuals to assist in such situations is important to ensuring that the necessary care will be able to be provided to animals in crisis, as unfortunately the Solon case was not the first and it won't be the last. Sections 3 through 5 address the makeup of the Animal Welfare Advisory Council. Expanding the description for some of the seats on AWAC is important to assist in filling some vacant seats and clarifying the type of experience appropriate for serving in others. AWAC has not met since May 16th of 2019 and is awaiting a number of appointments to be approved in order to start meeting again. These adjustments would assist with achieving and maintaining full membership on the council. Section 6 seeks to update the rabies vaccination requirements for dogs by lowering the age from 6 months to 3 months, along with some other changes there. I just wanted to pass along that I did hear from some veterinarians that while they do not have an issue with lowering the age, they did feel it may be more appropriate for it to be lowered to 4 months to allow for more flexibility in spreading out the vaccinations that puppies receive, along with the associated costs. And it sounds like the existing language may address that flexibility, but I do think it's important that that is clarified and that flexibility does exist in this bill if passed. Section 8 would allow for the revocation of animal control officer certification if they refuse or intentionally fail to perform their duties. This is important as such a remedy may be appropriate in certain cases where it would be problematic for an animal control officer to secure employment in another municipality after being found to have engaged in misconduct elsewhere. And lastly, sections 9 through 14 importantly clarify and expand upon the situations in which certain entities may utilize a notification process that allows for the transfer of ownership, thus affording them necessary protections and the ability to make decisions for animals abandoned in their care. The current language is quite narrow and would not necessarily cover situations such as a horse at a stable or a pet abandoned at an animal shelter that was providing free temporary housing for an animal whose family was experiencing a crisis. I did want to mention that the Maine Federation of Humane Societies did not have the opportunity to draft written testimony or have another board member that could be here today, but asked me to share that they do also support this bill. And for these reasons, I respectfully urge you to help improve Maine's animal welfare laws by voting ought to pass on LD 103. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hansberry. I just want to reiterate that we're doing 3-minute testimony, and I haven't been so on it, but from now on, I'll be starting the timer. All right,
apologies, I didn't hear a ding go off, so I kept going.
That was because I was muted. It did go off, but.
Oh, no. Oh, well, I appreciate you allowing me
my bad, so.
Thanks. All right, I see Representative McCray.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Katie. Anyway, I have a very short question and a little more detailed one. I assume that if this drags out for a year while the animal is in custody waiting for disposition of the case, that there's no possible way that that's going to be adopted out at that time because the owner still has ownership, correct?
That is correct. And that's what makes it so difficult on animal shelters and the animals as well, to be in this limbo and having to remain, in the care of the animal shelter or wherever they are currently being, cared for at that time. Because until the determination is made by the court as to ownership on that animal, they can't move forward with an adoption or returning to the owner if that is the outcome of the court's decision.
Okay, second question, Madam Chair.
Please.
Okay, anyway, years ago, it used to be that we'd line up in great big long lines at some place in a town and go to a rabies clinic. And it was, if there was any cost, it was very minimal. For a rabies shot, if people need, they by law have to get their dogs and cats their rabies shots. Is it necessary that they have a full-fledged veterinary appointment and therefore incur the costs of a vet appointment? Or is there some process whereby if it's just for a rabies shot, it's just for a rabies shot and go in, get it done and go home?
So there are opportunities for rabies vaccination clinics. Unfortunately, with COVID, those have not been taking place in the way that they formally have been. But yes, the statute, if I'm recalling correctly, it does require that a rabies vaccination be administered by a veterinarian or under the supervision of a veterinarian. But there are veterinarians that participate in low cost or sometimes even free vaccination clinics for rabies.
Perhaps at the statewide, you think?
So yeah, I believe that there's, so they do happen. Again, they're not happening right now. It's actually something that we talked about at the rabies working group and Maine Fed. We're trying to figure out, and I've talked to Director Hughes about it. We're trying to figure out ways that we can get more of those happening. But yes, they happen at, I think, sometimes they're at Tractor Supplies. Some of the shelters will have them. ACOs will coordinate with their town clerks and set them up somewhere in the municipality.
Okay, thank you very much, Katie.
All right, and I see a hand from Representative Underwood. Would you please unmute Representative Underwood?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My question for the lady is, according to the U.S. Constitution or the Maine Constitution, does she believe animals such as dogs or cats or even bears have rights based on either one of these two documents?
So,
okay, just a pause, please, before answering. Representative Underwood, thanks for your question. Typically, I just want to note that we're free to ask questions about the bill at hand. We tend to try not to, pester those who testify with questions that are kind of outside the scope. But I'll give Ms. Hansberry an opportunity to say something.
Yeah, and I would answer on behalf of, I'm here testifying on behalf of the Humane Society of the United States. And we are an animal protection and animal welfare organization, and we don't look at the issues that we work on and advance as animal rights issues. We look at them as, we are, stewards of the animals that we have in our care and that are in our environment. And therefore we have responsibilities towards those animals. So we work on addressing, making sure that we fulfill those responsibilities to animals and not that that animals, have a right under the Constitution or something like that.
Madam Chair, may I have a second question, please?
Absolutely.
For the question basically is, do you believe that we should be loosening the schedule of vaccine shots and make them cheaper and space them out further in order to aid in the in order to aid in all the shots that are needed for pets?
So I heard from a couple of veterinarians that work directly and closely with animal shelters here in the state, because I reached out to folks to try and get some impact, some input on that rabies question. And the input that I received from those veterinarians was that they really didn't have an issue with the change and looking to lower the age down from 6 months. They just felt that there are situations in which there are owners of dogs that are more comfortable spreading the vaccinations out a little bit more between the ones that they receive. I think it's like 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and 16 weeks. They're kind of given over the course of those intervals, and maintaining a little bit more flexibility rather than saying that it's going to happen in the 12-week set, that providing some flexibility that it could also happen along with the 16-week set of vaccinations that are giving, and just providing a little bit more flexibility there. And I don't have the schedule of vaccinations or how it works. And one of the other comments they provided to me was that can also sometimes help spread out the cost of vaccinations for dog owners. So that was the input that I received from veterinarians I checked in with on this change.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Hall.
Yes, thank you. The question I have, maybe expand upon Representative Underwood's question a little bit, but wouldn't it make a difference maybe on the breed of the dogs that we're talking about? I know you take a Saint Bernard, being a large dog versus a smaller, a Dachshund or whatever, as to when these shots should be required. That's maybe something we need to look at as when we're trying to decide the length of when we're going to administer these shots. I don't know. Could maybe you expand upon that just a little bit?
So yeah, I think that's a good question to ask. I personally don't have an answer to whether or not or how a breed size and those types of things come into play, especially specifically with a rabies vaccination, as that's the one at issue in this proposed bill. But I would be happy to go back to the veterinarians that I spoke with in connection with this and ask them that follow-up question. And I'm sure Catherine Sovrel from the Maine Veterinary Medical Association may be able to provide some follow-up information from the work session on that point as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do I see any other questions from folks on the committee? All right, seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you very much.
Next up, I have Rebecca Graham from MMA, please.
Thank you, Senator Dale, Representative O'Neill, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Rebecca Graham, and I am presenting testimony in support of LD 103 at the direction of our 70-member Legislative Policy Committee. Municipal officials appreciate the clarifying language that can remove some confusing ambiguities for enforcement, and also increase the accountability of an employee who's often shared by multiple municipalities. And additionally, the restriction on the ability to register dangerous dogs through the online system. That said, there is an opportunity to clean up some language within that particular statute as well. As many communities have regional animal control services, sometimes they're delivered through the county, and because it's increasingly difficult to find these employees. So under the current law under Chapter 7, 3952-A, the owner of a dangerous or nuisance dog must provide the animal control officer, specifically in the municipality where the dangerous or nuisance dog is kept. The committee might want to consider additional language throughout that statute that recognizes the county relationship in the delivery of some of these services, either by adding, as well as regionalization with jurisdiction in the municipality or county at those areas throughout that statute. And with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Do I see any questions from committee members? All right, seeing none. Would you be able to, for the work session, provide some kind of draft of the suggestion that you've made about regional? Okay. All right, thanks very much. All right, next on the list, I will move to those testifying against, and I have Eric Stoops, please.
Eric Stoops is not in the waiting room, but I do have Gary Anderson.
Okay, I'll welcome Gary Anderson, please.
Also, Madam Chair, I do send chats when people aren't available. If you check your chats, you might see the items that you might want to look at.
Thank you. I'll open a 7th window of a thing to look at.
Perfect, perfect.
I'll have to show you guys my screen sometime. All right, so Gary Anderson, please.
I think he's on phone.
No, I'm here. I just.
Okay.
We're ready for you when you're ready, Mr. Anderson. Good morning.
You want me to go ahead?
Yes, please. Good morning.
Okay.
Welcome.
I just saw a different screen. That's why I wondered. So.
Not to worry. Yeah, please introduce yourself, any affiliated organization or where you live, and then you'll have 3 minutes to testify.
Okay, great. Senator Deal, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Gary Anderson, and I reside in Glenburn, Maine. I'm speaking to you today representing the Federation of Maine Dog Clubs and Responsible Dog Owners. I respectfully urge you to vote ought not to pass on LD 103, or at least it needs to get some edits done. I am focusing my comments on the proposed change in rabies vaccination for dogs in the proposed bill. My main point of focus is the proposed change in rabies vaccination for dogs from 6 months to 3 months of age. While we are fully in support of rabies vaccination, this reduction in time frame has several problems, and I urge this change not be made. The proposed wording of the change is problematical. The labeled use of the rabies vaccine is to vaccinate at 3 months of age or older. The proposed wording in LD 103 is that owners of dogs over 3 months of age shall have the dog vaccinated, unquote. Does that mean that a puppy that is 3 months plus 1 day and not vaccinated in violation? So I read that section of the proposed law differently than other people that have testified this morning. With difficulties of getting veterinary appointments, this is a problem. I am hearing of people who have to wait long periods of time for an appointment, and some clinics are now not accepting any new patients, further increasing the stress of new puppy owners to get an appointment. The current wording of within 30 days after the dog attains the age of 6 months or 24 weeks cause the dog to be vaccinated against rabies is much better from a biological standpoint and veterinary scheduling perspective. I'll explain why. I wanted to quickly review the biology of the newborn puppy. Puppies are nourished by the first milk or colostrum from their mother. Colostrum is a rich source of nutrients, and we know that the impact of the first meals of colostrum have lifelong impact. One of the benefits of colostrum is the passage of passive immunity to the puppy from the mother against diseases she has raised an immune response. To get a successful vaccination, you have to have maturity of the newborn immune system and clearance of the passive antibody protection. The immune system of puppies develops over time, and breeders work to get an immune response to a vaccine by vaccinating multiple times, as was talked about earlier. The label recommendation for vaccination with the puppy shot is puppies vaccinated before 9 weeks of age should be revaccinated every 3 to 4 weeks until 14 to 16 weeks of age. You all have likely had a puppy that had its first set of shots when you picked it up, and it needed a second set of shots
Pardon me,
later.
Mr. Anderson.
Yep. Oh, I'm over 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
Yes, your 3 minutes are up. But as a first question from the committee, I'm going to ask you what you'd like to say, just to make a few points to wrap up.
First of all, I'd just like to have it not changed from 6 months to 3 months, because if you leave it at 6 months, then the individual dog owner and the veterinarian have an opportunity to decide during that time period, when's the best time to give this series of vaccinations. And the issue is with the other vaccinations we've talked about, the puppy shot, we're layering vaccinations on top of one another. And so it's like fighting a war. And if you have to divide your forces in so many areas to cover and raise an immune response against so many different diseases, the effectiveness is reduced tremendously. So why not give that puppy shot against that distemper complex, build a good immune response, and then give the rabies shot after that and build a good response for rabies.
Thank you. And I see that you were reading off of written testimony.
Yep, I was.
But I don't have a copy of that. Would you be able to submit that?
You know, later.
That'd be great. And we'll include that when we have our work session to have that to look at. Do I see any questions from fellow committee members?
I apologize for the time. I thought I was going to be quicker.
Oh, not to worry. Thanks for your testimony. All right, do I see no questions? I will ask if we have anyone else here to testify against. I know that we were looking for Mr. Stoops, but if not, I'll move to neither for nor against. I see
Madam
someone.
Chair, may I make a point, please?
Yes. You have a question for the.
Could this be tabled?
Right now we are conducting a public hearing. There will be a work, so we'll go through that, take testimony from everyone that's here today to speak to us and tell them where they stand on it. At some point in the coming weeks, we'll schedule a work session to work on the bill, and that's when we'll take up any deliberation of it. And that would be kind of a time for that if you felt like you needed more time and weren't able to vote that day. All right, thanks. I saw a hand raised and it looks like you're registered on neither for nor against. So I'm moving there and I will call up Stacy Ober, please.
Good morning, Chair O'Neill, Chair Dill, and members of the committee. My name is Stacy Ober. I am the legislative analyst in New England for the American Kennel Club. American Kennel Club is a 135-year-old nonprofit organization that represents more than 5,100 dog clubs across the country, including 31 in Maine. And we are a recognized and trusted expert in canine health training, breeding, and responsible dog ownership. I have submitted written testimony and would like to just acknowledge that our clubs have funded more than $59 million for canine health research that benefits all dogs. LD 103 to improve animal welfare laws. I'm here today to comment on making some recommendations to clarify text in the bill. Specifically, I'm going to focus on the first section in section 2 of the bill on the right to call and designate assistance for natural and man-made disasters. As I read the bill text, I wasn't clear what in fact constituted a man-made disaster, but after hearing testimony, I did suspect that it might be in relation to animal hoarding disorder, which has been confirmed today. In Rhode Island, for instance, they refer to the hazardous accumulation of animals. That may be language to consider that makes it clear when exactly the department would be employing assistance. I want to acknowledge that AKC has a zero tolerance for animal neglect and cruelty. And also to note that sometimes an individual's neglect or cruel treatment of animals is the result of mental illness that is a recognized diagnosis by mental health professionals called animal hoarding disorder. And shockingly, the studies show that it causes more animal suffering than all acts of intentional cruelty combined. And it is something that creates a complex community problem. The animals, unfortunately, are a symptom of the disorder. And I wanted to just acknowledge that in the event, the language here in section 2 would provide the commissioner the authority to employ assistance. And it's unclear whether or not that means fill a position as a public employee, or are we talking about contracting with an outside entity to provide some contracted services? If it's not to establish a public employee position, I want to caution the committee that in New Hampshire, there was a scenario where local police department facing an animal hoarding disorder had contracted out with a national animal welfare organization. And unfortunately, there was no non-disclosure agreement that was entered into. And instead, the national organization utilized evidence that was collected during the seizure of those animals for its own private fundraising prospects.
I'm going to ask you to wrap up, please.
Sure.
We're past 3 minutes.
So basically, you'll find in my written testimony some recommended text to ensure that someone that is not a public employee held to the same ethics and guidelines or oversight wouldn't be in a position to utilize that assistance for their own private personal gain. And law enforcement typically enters into non-disclosure agreements when they do need to employ suitable assistance for an investigation. Here to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, perfect. Thank you for your testimony. Do I see any questions from committee members? All right, thanks so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
All right, and I don't see Mr. Stoops who had signed up, so seeing no more folks on the list, I close the public hearing for LD 103. Thanks. Before we start, I want to give an indication of order. Next up is going to be 268, and then we're going to go in order of 322, 381, and 416 for those who are listening. So now I'll open the public hearing on LD 268, which is an act to eliminate online burn permit fees for all areas of the state, sponsored by Senator Dill.
Thank you. Good morning, Representative O'Neill and honorable members of the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee. As you know, I'm Senator Jim Dill and represent Senate District 5. I'm here today to introduce LD 268, an act to eliminate online burn permit fees for all areas of the state. As you know, this is one of the bills that we had, you may know, last session, but it got lost in the shuffle when we had to abbreviate a session. And as I say, I was the one who introduced it in the 129th, and it passed unanimously. So burn permits help us prevent wildfires in Maine. They encourage safe burn practices and alert local officials to where a special burn is happening. Currently, it costs a user $7 to purchase an open burn permit online. So anyone can still get a handwritten permit from the town fire officials or forest rangers for free. In this modern day and age, especially now when everyone is trying to limit their social interactions, removing any barriers to using the online system is key. That's why eliminating the $7 fee is important. A free online system will increase the use of burn permits, increasing safety and adding to our wildfire prevention efforts. In addition to making the online system free, the bill would also allow a municipality to pay to use a private party burn permit system. Thank you for your time, and I will take any questions you may have, but I'm sure there's people from the department that will speak to this issue also.
All right, thank you for your testimony, Senator Dill. Do I see any questions from members of the committee? All right, seeing none, I'm going to welcome Mr. Courier from the department up, please.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Good morning.
Okay. Good morning. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Jeffrey Courier. I'm a regional forest ranger with the Maine Forest Service, and I'm here to testify on behalf of the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry in support of LD 268. Maine Forest Rangers and our municipal fire department partners work together very hard every day to ensure that Maine is safe from the devastating effects of wildfires. This partnership has served our state well, and we use a series of tools to make certain that Mainers and our visitors to our state use safe practices when burning out of doors. One of those tools is requiring people who wish to conduct an open burn to obtain a permit. When people seek and are issued a permit, it provides a great deal of important information to us and our firefighting partners. Forest Rangers use our online permit system to regulate open burning, to identify friendly smokes, and to promote general awareness with our municipal fire partners on where out-of-door burning is occurring. The system is directly tied to our automated fire weather system, and it works very well. We believe this requirement has contributed to our success in limiting the number of wildfires and thereby protecting life, property, and our state's valuable natural resources. Because burn permits enhance our safety efforts, we want to present as few barriers as we can to people seeking them. LD 268 seeks to strengthen our efforts by eliminating the transaction fee for our state's highly successful online open burning permit system. And as Senator Dill mentioned, currently we charge a $7 fee for each permit issued. Citizens can still obtain a handwritten permit from a town fire official or a forest ranger at no charge. But it's our experience in today's technology-driven society that people appreciate being able to acquire an open burning permit more efficiently using their computer or their smartphone. It's our view that the cost of a permit should not be a limiting factor for Mainers seeking to use such a highly successful system when the goal, in the end, should be the prevention of wildfires. We believe that the elimination of the fee will only increase the use of the system and therefore result in an even higher level of wildfire prevention success here in Maine. It's also critical that online burning permits, our systems are equal for all citizens of our state. After changes in public law in 2017, certain municipalities were afforded the use of an online permit system at no cost. Adoption of this legislation will ensure that Mainers in all areas of the state have the same ability. Our system is stable, it's well maintained by the professionals at Inform Me, and it is easy to use for citizens. Most importantly, it is extremely effective for our mission. We are confident that the passage of this bill will only increase the effectiveness of our efforts to prevent potentially devastating wildfires. Adopting this measure would not interfere with private systems charging a fee for the permits that they provide, and we have no objection to that. We simply want to eliminate as many barriers as possible to keep people using the state's online open burning permit system. We ask you for the support on this bill, and I, as well as other members of our agency, will be more than welcome to answer questions now and in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Courier, for your testimony. Do I see any questions from committee members? All right, seeing none, thanks very much. I'm looking at my list and I see William Gillespie next.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and the committee members. My name is Chief Bill Gillespie. I am the legislative liaison for the Maine Fire Chiefs and a fire chief in the town of Liberty, as well as a fire warden for the last 15 years. I thank you for the opportunity and Senator Dill for bringing this forward. Once again, it is an important initiative that the Maine Fire Chiefs support. We would love to see the state site to eliminate the fee to make it more reasonable for everybody to get a burn permit. In my community over the last year, I've had to eliminate my face-to-face contact with individuals based on COVID. And that resulted in about 225 burn permits that I had to forward to an online system that we brought on a few years back. If that system wasn't available, there would have been many of townspeople that would have gotten would have burned without a permit because the Forest Service did not encourage us doing face-to-face. We did have to do 3 face-to-face, which I was comfortable based on that. I dropped off a permit at a certain location. They signed it. I picked it up. We made it work. But to have this be available would be very helpful to the Maine chiefs and myself included. The other issue that obviously comes forward is the entire state. There are a lot of areas that are not covered by the private services at this point in time that utilize the state site. And it should only be fair that they have the abilities to get the permits without having to pay a fee, as other municipalities have been working on. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I appreciate your consideration in this bill. And certainly if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you for your testimony. Chief Gillespie, do I see any questions from committee members? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.
You too, take care. All right, I see next up, we have none testifying against, so I'll move to neither for nor against and welcome Rebecca Graham, please.
Thank you, Representative O'Neill. I'm actually in support of. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Rebecca Graham, and I'm presenting testimony in support of with some amendments to think about at the direction of MMA's 70-member Legislative Policy Committee. In general, towns believe that this, and municipal officials believe that this online system is incredibly helpful in reducing the number of times that they have to bring apparatus to a perceived fire unnecessarily. So they believe that it allows for compliance, increased compliance. In some cases, the online permit fees provide very small but still important revenue for those communities. And I have 3 cases that will be submitted with my written testimony of different ways in which this system has worked for municipalities. In some rural municipalities, it works really well, that it takes the burden off that individual fire warden so that they are not being bothered on the weekend. And in another case, a community that has the granular local system would really like to be able to opt out of the state online system because it doesn't allow for like, for instance, there are certain areas in the community where they would not issue a burn permit, and someone could actually get that burn permit through the state online system. And in the third case, there's also a plea for the ability to push to the local level because of microclimates and the reality that the state system uses what are large regional weather indicators. And on the ground, in this particular instance, there's been repeated state issuance of fire permits that actually kind of endanger that community because of the prevailing winds for that point. So perhaps the middle ground might be to suggest a non-mandatory fee at the time of application and reinvest that in either the granularity of that system or the improvement of the communication between those communities. However, also the municipal opt-out for that system would also be. They emphasize that the online system has increased compliance and significantly reduced the number of times that they've had to respond to fires unnecessarily.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Graham, for your testimony. And I'll just add to Cheryl, maybe we can switch that to reflect in favor so we have it reflected. Do I have any questions from committee members? All right, seeing none, thank you for your testimony. And that, should we not have anybody else here, that concludes the public hearing for LD 268. And at this point, I am going to turn things over to my co-chair, Senator Dill.
Thank you, Representative O'Neill. We'll continue right along with our public hearings today. The next one we have is LD 322. So I'll open the public hearing on LD 322, an act to provide occupants of motor vehicles with Gold Star family registration plates free entry to state parks and historic sites. And the sponsor of that is Representative Roberts, and I see her down here on my screen. So with that, Representative Roberts, a past member of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to pretend like I just ran down the hall from IDEA, be out of breath. And I know the tradition, but I didn't think that mailing you all strawberry shortcake ice cream bars would have logistically gone well. So I'll owe you some because you're missing out, obviously. Good morning, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I am Representative Tiffany Roberts, and I represent House District 6, which is the majority of North Berwick and South Berwick. I'm here today to present LD 322, an act to provide occupants of motor vehicles with Gold Star family registration plates free entry to state parks and historic sites. This bill was introduced in the 129th and passed, but died upon adjournment before it became law. Since the original bill was brought forth by another member who shared my interest and passion in helping our military and their families, I thought it appropriate for me to bring it back for consideration in the 130th. Gold Star families who have lost loved ones in the line of duty deserve much more than we as legislators can provide. However, we can honor and reward our veterans and recognize the sacrifices of Gold Star families by providing them the opportunity to enjoy the beauty of Maine state parks and historic sites at no cost to them. LD 322 provides for free entry to Maine state parks and historic sites for those with Gold Star license plates and for passengers in those vehicles. Vehicles displaying a disabled veteran's license plate currently receive this benefit, and the same should be true for Gold Star families. This bill does not place an additional burden on the Bureau of Parks and Lands. The fiscal note last time was very minimal. I thank you very much for your time and consideration, and I would be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Representative Roberts. Are there any questions from anyone? All right, seeing none, again, thank you. I don't see any other co-sponsors here or other legislators. Does anyone else want to say anything on behalf of this bill on legislators? Seeing none, then I will move right on to Andy Cutco from the department. Andy.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and Representative Roberts. Nice to see you. Honorable members of the committee, my name is Andy Cutco. I'm the Director of the Maine Bureau of Parks and Lands, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Department of ACF. Neither for nor against LD 322, an act to provide occupants of motor vehicles with Gold Star family registration plates free entry to state parks and historic sites. Like all Mainers, the department honors the memory of Gold Star service members who've sacrificed their lives for defending the country. The Bureau also recognizes the physical and emotional benefits of the outdoors for Gold Star family members. In 2020, Maine state parks welcomed more than 3 million visitors, an all-time record. And many of those using our state parks were seeking the relaxation and family connection time that are so characteristic of outdoor activities in Maine. We recognize the good intentions behind LD 322, and we're also compelled to note the fiscal impact. Revenues from Maine State Park entrance fees are returned to the state's general fund, and currently entrance fees do not cover expenses. In fiscal year 2020, for example, general fund expenditures on parks totaled approximately $7.7 million, while revenues totaled just under $5.3 million. It's our understanding that there are approximately 360 Gold Star families in Maine, and assuming those Gold Star families would otherwise need to purchase a vehicle season pass for $105, the maximum fiscal impact would be about $38,000. In summary, the department recognizes the admirable intent behind LD 322 and supports ways to encourage Gold Star families to use our state parks. At the same time, the department needs to ensure that the committee considers the fiscal impact of this bill as it deliberates on LD 322. Thanks for your time, and I'd be glad to answer any questions either now or in the work session.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions? Representative McCray.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here, Mr. Cutco. I don't imagine there's any way that you could tell us the approximate number of Gold Star cars that visit the parks either on a one-time basis or seasonal pass or anything. Is there any data there, or are we just going to look at the fiscal impact as if they all came and all bought a seasonal pass?
Thank you for the question, and you're correct, because it's not something we have been tracking in the past. I don't know that we have any reliable way to estimate or project that. And so just to confirm what you have stated here, the number that we've assessed of $38,000 is really the maximum amount. If every one of the Gold Star families were to purchase a season pass and go to the state parks, that would be the number. So likely it's less than that, but we don't know exactly how much less than that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Representative Ocean, do you have a question?
Well, that's pretty much what my question would be. However, I think that, we're talking about a fiscal note. It's a really hard to calculate. And what we also know that that budgets are a sign of our ethics. And I think that having parity, that veterans have the right to go in, that the veterans' families should also have the what we call it, the right that we offer them that, and that's part. So it would be a way that our budget would be showing our ethics, that we want to thank them for their service. And also we know that it's such a healing thing to go out to the parks. And so we also would be offering that in support of healing from the tragedies that they've experienced. So I'm in favor.
Thank you. Just remember, committee members, especially new committee members, that during public hearings, these are questions. So if you can, when you make a statement like that, which is fine, just if you can put it in the form of a question back to whoever is speaking, that way we'll stay within our protocol. Comments and discussion, that's fine during the work session. Representative Underwood.
I just had a point of order for the chairman. As far as getting a physical note, is there a possibility of getting a physical note from one of the analysts to attach to this, please?
Yeah, there's no way of getting it, today for this meeting, but that's one of the things that as we start to work the bill and as it goes forward, it will go to be assessed a fiscal note. But you've probably heard what the fiscal note is probably going to be. As pointed out by Mr. Cutco, there's probably no other way to be able to determine that fiscal note than what he just presented. And I see he's nodding his head. Is that what you would say, Mr. Cutco?
Yes, I mean, that's really the way we have come up with the estimate is looking at the number of Gold Star families currently, and then just assuming that entrance for those would be calculated through a purchase of a season pass. So $38,000 again is the maximum. We know it would be less than that, but how much less, it's impossible to know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I guess the one thing I would add is that if this were to pass through recognition of the act, I would hope that, we could do some publicity around this to make Gold Star families aware of the use and increase whatever the use was now to, free use would obviously hopefully be an encouraging way to get more people out there using the state parks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Cutco? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. I do not have anyone else on my list, and I don't see anyone else here to testify in favor or on this particular bill, LD 322. So I will close the public hearing on LD 322, and we'll move on to LD 381. an act to reduce from 8 weeks to 6 weeks the age at which a rabbit may be sold. And I see Representative Arata. I don't see Representative Senator Stewart. Let me ask a question of Representative Arata. Are you here to present the bill or Senator?
No, I'm here to testify neither for nor against.
Okay.
So just for information for you.
No problem. I will tell you what is going on, just so you know.
Representative Kinney is a co-sponsor. That's why I brought her in.
Okay, I'll ask her the same question. Are you here to present for Senator Stewart?
I wasn't, but I'm chatting with him. I just told him I can present for him because I know what's going on with it.
Okay, then we'll turn to Representative Kinney, and welcome. It's nice to see you again. A former member.
Senator Stewart just said he's here. If you want to have him, he might have something actually prepared.
All right. If he's here, let's go and see where he is. Senator Stewart, can you hear us?
I can. I'm not sure if my video is working or not.
No, we can't see you, but we can hear you. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Very briefly, I'll be very brief on this bill because the folks who requested me to put it in have subsequently requested that we withdraw it. Unfortunately, you know that the deadline for that is long past. And so respectfully, if the committee is interested in killing the bill outright, I would support that and appreciate your time and sorry to bog down the schedule with this.
Okay, so I'm sensing that you want this to be ought not to pass. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I mean, you could kill it now or schedule a work session, whatever is, whatever you feel is best, Mr. Chair. I leave it entirely up to you, but feel free to just kill the bill.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Are there any other questions for Senator Stewart? Okay, so the way this can go is I will ask, since folks are here to testify, but you heard what has been presented by the sponsor. And normally in a situation like this, out of respect for the sponsor, what we will end up doing is suspending the rules and probably going directly into work session and vote ought not to pass, or at least most likely that would be it. But since this is a public hearing and we do have people here that may want to testify, I see two representatives, I will give them the option, knowing what the outcome is probably going to be. So first off, I will ask for one of the co-sponsors, Representative Kinney. Do you want to say anything?
I'm all set. Senator Stewart said it all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Arata.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm fine with the ought not to pass, and I just want to let you know that I'm your legislative rabbit expert. I have to show you my picture of my rabbit. See that white fuzzy thing? That's my English
white fuzzy ball.
Huh?
I said that white fuzzy ball.
Yeah, that's the 2008 Reserve and Show at the Freiburg Fair.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so I'm fine with the budget. I mean, I'm fine with the bill being killed. That's fine.
It looks a little different than the one hanging out behind Representative O'Neill there, the jalopy or whatever it is. I can see
that looks like a Holland lop behind her.
All
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, let me see who else I have on my list. As I say, just to be fair to everyone, I have Karen Soverell. Dr. Soverell, are you here? Do you wish to say anything?
She is. She's coming.
Thank you, Chairman Dill. I did submit written testimony, so if I don't want to waste anybody's time if it's not going to be helpful. So I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. And the only other one I see is Jack McDivitt, is he? Yep, I see him on the bottom of the screen here. And I think he was testifying against. So Mr. McDivitt, would you like to say anything? Hearing nothing. He's muted, but he's unmuted. Can you hear me, Mr. McDevitt?
Yes, I can. Good morning, committee members. I would just like to say that I think it is a good decision to oppose of the bill, especially that there is a lot of genetic defects and issues that could go unnoticed at around 6 weeks. So I think it would be best to leave the 8-week mark.
Well, thank you very much for your testimony. And who are you holding there?
This is my bunny Ram.
Graham, did you say?
Yeah.
Graham. And what type of rabbit is he?
He's called a lion head.
Could you hold him up again so we can see him one more time? Wow. He's very, very nice little rabbits.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you raise him for show? Is that what you do with him?
Yeah. I
4-H?
have a 4-H and other, like the American Rabbit Breeders Association as well.
Well, that's very good. And thank you for coming here to testify this morning. We appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Does anybody else on the committee like to say anything to Mr. McDavitt? All right, very good. Thank you, sir. All right. With that, I will close the public hearing with the expectation as soon as we come out of the meeting that the hearing that we will immediately ask for a motion. I see Karen is on here, so she'll keep me straight if I'm doing anything incorrectly here. So I will close the hearing on LD 381. Karen, is this where I go ahead and ask for suspension of the rules and go right into work session?
Yeah, actually, you could typically committees go right in that decide to go into work session after public hearing, do it immediately after, but you can also do it after the public hearing on the last bill, whatever works for you.
Yeah, I think we'll just go ahead.
And your committee rules of procedure actually allow you to do this.
Yeah.
You voted that you would do this.
We do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't have to suspend the rules because it's part of our rules. All right, very good. Then I will open up a work session on LD 381. An act to reduce from 8 weeks to 6 weeks the age at which a rabbit may be sold. Someone like to make a motion? I see Representative Hall's hand up. Representative Hall.
Yes, I'd like to move that we suspend the rules, go directly into work session, and vote this ought not to pass.
All right, so your vote, your motion is ought not to pass then on LD.
Correct.
Seconded by Representative McCray. Any discussion? Seeing none, Cheryl, would you please call the roll?
Yes, I will. LD 381 ought not to pass. Representative Susan Bernard. Absent. Representative Lori Osher.
Read.
Representative Lori Osher, yes. Representative Thomas Schofield, absent. Representative Joseph Underwood.
Yes.
Representative Joseph Underwood, yes. Representative Scott Landry.
Yes.
Representative Scott Landry, yes. Representative Randall Hall.
Yes.
Representative Randall Hall, yes. Representative Margaret O'Neill.
Yes.
Representative Margaret O'Neill, yes. Senator James Dill.
Yes.
Senator James Dill, yes. Senator Russell Black.
Yes.
Senator Russell Black, yes. Senator Chloe Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Chloe Maxman, yes. Representative Bill Pluker.
Yes.
Representative Bill Pluker, yes. Representative Jeffrey Gifford, absent. Representative David McCray.
Yes.
Representative Representative David McCray, yes. Ten yes and 3 absent.
All right, thank you. With 10 in favor of
Ought not
to pass, the LD 381 will go down as ought not to pass, 3 absent, which can vote by going through presiding officer. Senator Black, did you have a question before I close the work session?
I not a question, but well, maybe it's a question. Did Representative Marianne Kinney testify before us today? If she did, I believe she owes us a treat.
Well,
I think she's hanging on just so you could say that to her.
well, you see, this was my testimony for the next bill because I wasn't really going to testify on this one. But as a former member of this esteemed committee, I would have loved to have been able to present you with some of this wonderful maple sugar. It was actually at the suggestion of Senator Dill. But today I'm just going to have to put a little in my coffee and enjoy it for you. Cheers.
Very good. Thank you, Representative Kinney. We appreciate that. Seeing no other comments or questions, I will close the work session on LD 381, or maybe I already did that. If I didn't, I am now. And with that, we'll move on to our final public hearing of the day, which I'll open LD 416, an act regarding the production and sale of birch syrup and birch syrup products. And with that, we'll go back and get some birch sugar. So I will turn it back to Representative Kinney, who is the sponsor.
Thank you, Senator Dill. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and distinguished members of the committee that still holds my heart, Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I am Representative Kinney of Knox, where cows still outnumber people, and we like it that way. I represent the House District 99, which includes the towns of Brooks, Burnham, Freedom, Jackson, Knox, Monroe, Thorndike, Troy, and Unity. And I'm here to introduce LD 416, an act regarding the production and sale of birch syrup and birch syrup products. This bill came about from a discussion at last fall's Young Farmer and Rancher annual meeting during the Maine Farm Bureau annual meeting. Max Kuchar owns Rhodes End Farm in Canton and was in attendance at the meeting, suggesting a resolution to possibly group birch syrup into the maple syrup regulations for production and sales. As a maple producer, I was intrigued. I have tried birch syrup myself, and although it's quite different from maple, it is made in the same way. Yet birch syrup is considered a processed food rather than an agricultural product for licensing and sales. And they actually have to produce and bottle their product in a commercial kitchen, whereas us as maple producers are able to do this in our sugar house. And they just want to be able to be in the same, have the same options available to them. On average, it takes about 40 gallons of maple sap to produce a gallon of maple syrup, and birch is a little bit more. And according to alaskabirchsyrup.com, it's an average of 110 gallons to 1. The same equipment is used in both productions, but the same producer can easily produce both on the same equipment because the birch syrup season begins about the time the maple season is ending. And just to let you know, and curious, Senator Black and Representative Hall, sap's flowing here in Knox. I don't know what it's doing out your way. We're ready to go. But as I was working to compose the language for the bill, we decided, since the two products have some differences, the rulemaking part really needs to be kept separate. And so we've added a new section for birch syrup. New rules would need to be established because maple syrup the density is a bit higher than what's needed for birch syrup to be shelf stable. And there's currently there isn't a set of color grades for birch syrup like there is for maple syrup. And I'm sure there are other differences to hash out as well. It is my understanding that Max Kuchar and Mike Romanishan, owner, and I apologize, I probably said that wrong, owner of Temple Tappers in Temple are here to testify as well and can get into more specifics of birch syrup production. And so thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have in regards to LD 416.
Are there any questions for Representative Kinney? I will volunteer, Representative Kinney, if someone needs to go and talk to the birch producers in Alaska, I would volunteer to go and do that for you. So
That's one of the places I'd love to go someday. I really would. My in-laws have been, and they've actually brought back birch syrup because they were so intrigued with the product, knowing that we made the maple, that they brought it back. And it's distinct. It's different. And of course, I love Moxie, as most everyone on that former members that have been on the committee, I've had my Moxie in front of the horseshoe over after lunch on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the past. But
right. So that actually was my question, though, going to Alaska, certainly not going there, but would you be working probably with folks from Alaska to establish some of these rules, since they're ahead of the game on birch syrup?
When I discussed it with the revisor's office, I did mention Alaska is a great place to use for a resource because they've been producing birch syrup there for a long time. And as I said in my testimony, they actually had a website, alaskabirchsyrup.com, which was where I quickly found out the ratio. I had originally heard it was like 80-1, but it's more than that. So at least according to Wikipedia, or not Wikipedia, because this was their website last night, I found that ratio, and I think that would be great. And I do think that I believe Mike Romanishan is the largest producer in the state, and I think it's his syrup that I've tasted before at the Common Ground Fair. Very good product. And as I mentioned in the testimony, what they're doing is having to rent commercial kitchens or develop a commercial kitchen, whereas in the sugar houses around the state, we're using evaporators and boiling to high temperatures, and I'm not exactly sure the temperature they go to with the birch syrup. So again, that would be questions for them to answer. But they just want to be able to be grouped with us under the Department of Agriculture, like maple syrup is. And it would be another safe product similar to maple that just gives them easier ability to produce. And Maine, I read an article that these two gentlemen were part of in the Bangor Daily News just a few days ago, that they stated that Maine has potential. And for people like Senator Black and I, who were on the Maple Task Force not that long ago, oh, maybe it was now, probably talking 10 years ago now, Russ, yikes. There's potential. Maine could bypass Vermont in maple production, and Maine would only be second to Alaska as far as birch syrup production if we actually promoted and pushed this product, this agricultural deliciousness.
Great. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Representative Kinney? All right. Again, thank you for your testimony, and we will move on. I don't see anyone.
Great to be back.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else legislatively that wants to testify. Representative Hall, do you want to testify?
Yes. Yes, I'd just like to echo Representative Kinney's bill, and I was a co-sponsor of this. I believe in the past we're being a maple producer ourselves here at the farm, and we have produced birch syrup at one time. This would bring the birch producers into a lot more level playing field along with the maple syrup producers, and it would actually help their cause. So I would echo what Representative Kinney said, and I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Representative Hall? All right, seeing none. Anyone else from the committee or legislators want to testify? All right, we'll move on to the department, and it looks like Celeste Poulin from the department is here.
Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and honorable members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Celeste Poulin, and I'm the Director of the Division of Quality Assurance and Regulation within the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I'm speaking today on behalf of the department in support of LD 416, an act regarding the production and sale of birch syrup and birch syrup products. We thank Representative Kinney for sponsoring this bill. The Division of Quality Assurance and Regulation is tasked with implementing both state and federal laws regarding food and food products in commerce. Our consumer protection inspectors enforce retail compliance with the Maine Food Code and the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. This includes ensuring that all food and food products produced and offered for sale in Maine are properly labeled, including a complete list of all ingredients and any necessary disclosures. LD 416 provides for the regulation of the production, sale, and labeling of birch syrup and birch syrup products. It establishes parameters and requirements for labeling the product and containers and sets fines for violations. This bill establishes standard expectations around the quality and labeling of products in this nascent industry, similar to what exists currently for maple syrup. There are components of the bill, such as requiring the producer's seal along with tracing and product information on the cap, that seem cumbersome and would be adequate on the product label only. But these concerns are minor and can be addressed through the rulemaking process as referenced in the bill. The bill's language does appear to address any concerns about misleading labeling or product adulteration. In summary, while there are few birch syrup producers currently operating in the state of Maine, it is important for the industry to have guidelines and standards as it grows. The Division of Quality Assurance and Regulation is pleased to support these producers through standardized expectations for the production, sale, and labeling of these products. I will be happy to answer any of your questions at this time and will be present at the work session for further discussion as needed.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none. Again, thank you. I will move on to those in favor, and first on my list is Max Kuchar. So Max, if you're there, would you? There we go.
Can everybody hear me all right?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Max Kuchar, and I live in Canton. I operate a small farm, primarily selling meat, eggs, and maple syrup, and more recently adding birch syrup. I'm testifying in support of LD 416, an act regarding the production and sale of birch syrup and birch syrup products. Currently, there are no rules specifically governing birch syrup in the state of Maine. This bill would allow birch syrup to be aligned with the rules of maple syrup. The birch syrup production process is essentially the same as maple syrup, with some small differences during production because of the different compositions of the sap. The flavors are much different, though, in the end product. It's produced by some sugar makers immediately following the maple season using much of the same equipment. It is a way for folks to produce a second product in their sugar house by extending the sugar season and getting more use from their equipment. The problem currently is that birch syrup gets categorized as a processed food and has to be bottled in a commercial kitchen to be legal. That adds an extra hoop to the process that may deter someone from adding birch syrup or starting a birch syrup operation on its own. In the one season last year that I produced birch syrup, I sold it under the town of Canton's food sovereignty ordinance, just to mainly friends and family and local folks. Birch syrup is more of a niche product right now when compared to maple, but there's a lot of potential in Maine for production. Maine has the most tappable birch trees by far in the lower 48 states. I feel it will become more popular as more sugar makers look to diversify their operation if they have access to birch trees. In conclusion, I fully support LE 416 as a way to simplify the process of making and selling birch syrup in Maine.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Kuchar? I just have a quick question. So since it takes so much more sap, which must mean, more time, is birch syrup much more expensive than maple syrup?
Yeah, you know, maple syrup, you could probably say that it's between $60 to $100 a gallon, you know, as a general price, depending on what you're buying. Whereas birch syrup is, you know, $300 or more per gallon, essentially. And, you know, a lot of times it's sold in smaller containers because you're not pouring it on top of your pancakes, you know, by the half gallon like some people might do. So it's more for cooking and things like that, whereas it's not really a table syrup. So yeah, there's a lot less sap. The season is much shorter. For the most part, it's 2 to 3 weeks, you know, sometimes even less. And so it's a very brief season, and then you get much lower sugar from the sap. So yeah, you need more sap to make the same amount of syrup. So yeah, and then the process is a little bit more complicated than maple, just because you have to be careful. It's easier to burn the sap and things like that when you compare it to something like maple. So, but yeah, it's as per gallon, it's more valuable. Yes.
Great, thank you. Representative Landry.
Thank you, Senator Dill. Just a couple quick questions, if I may. Does it boil over like a maple syrup will when you're evaporating it? Do you have the boil overs the same as you do with maple?
Yeah, you would use a defoamer like you would with maple. Yeah, and then there's a lot more minerals too, because of you know, birch has a lot more minerals in the sap. So, and then considering you have to take so much more water out, you actually end up with a lot more what people would call sugar sand that ends up in your pans and things like that. So yeah, it responds similarly when you're boiling. Yeah.
Thank you. And one more question, if I may. I assume it's just white birch you're tapping, and what diameter are you tapping?
Well, I try to follow the same rules as you would with a maple for, you know, that at least 8 to 10 inches in diameter or bigger. You know, I have quite a few older birch trees, and you can tap more than white birch. I have primarily paper birch in my sugar bush, but there's a few yellow birch that I tap as well. And they all produce sap. That's pretty much paper birch and yellow birch are the trees that you would tap around here. There's gray birch, but they never really get big enough. You know, those are the ones that'll kind of die off when they're not very big. So those don't really have much potential, but yeah, yellow birch does also produce sap.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Representative Underwood.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Kocher, would you be available for a work session when one is scheduled, please?
Yes, I should be able to be available for a work session. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Representative
Chairman.
O'Neill. Yep. Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your testimony. I was curious because I wasn't familiar with the product, what you use it for. Is it like molasses and you use it for cooking? Like what kind of thing do you do with it?
Yeah, it has a stronger flavor generally. So it's my favorite thing to put it on is a glaze on salmon. It's very good on that. Chicken is popular, and really, I know some people will make mixed drinks or things like that. I am going to start experimenting with making some barbecue sauces potentially. I like the flavors of how it is. I think that would work well in a barbecue sauce. But yeah, primarily most people use it as some sort of cooking type of syrup. It's a bit strong to just pour on top of your pancakes or something like that.
Thank you. So it has some kind of quality that it adds extra flavor than like a
Yeah, the flavors. From what I've made, I kind of there's a fruitiness to it in a way. I haven't quite decided how I want to describe that. And then in some of the stronger flavors can almost have like a balsamic type of taste, like a balsamic vinegar, but not not really like a vinegar, but has that stronger flavor kind of mixed in with the sweetness. And some of that is from the cooking process, you know, the heat. And if you cook it too long, then it, you know, that's where it turns a lot of people off, is that it can be too strong flavored. So there, you have to be careful with that too.
Neat. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Thanks.
Next, we'll go on to, and I will probably mispronounce your last name, but Michael Romashin or Romashine. So Michael.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Dill and Representative O'Neill and the honorable members of the committee. And thank you, Representative Kinney, for proposing this legislation, and Max Kuchar for pushing it through. I'm owner with my wife of the Temple Tappers in Temple. We're the only full-time commercial birch producers in the state. We began about 8 years ago.
Would you introduce yourself first, please?
Yes, my name is Michael Romanishin. And with my wife, Susan Dennison, we are the owners of the Temple Tappers.
Thank you.
So we began about 8 years ago. And there's just a few things. I think this is a very good bill. It's a great start. I really hope that the state can be more involved in the evolution of birch products in Maine. I just would like to point out a couple of different things. One, it actually takes 120 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of birch. We advertise on our bottles that with birch syrup, some love it, some don't. I think Representative Black might speak to that. He's tasted our syrup. And then just about the research that's been done. You don't have to go to Alaska, although that would be great. There's been extensive research at UVM and the Proctor Institute, at UNH, and also at the Maple Research Lab in Cornell, at Cornell University up at Paul Smith College. So there's really an abundance of studies that have been done and ongoing research that could be accessed to gain more knowledge about birch. And we've also worked with our local extension service here in Farmington and with the University of Maine in Orono. So just to echo the fact that Maine has this huge potential, being the largest, having the largest amount of birch trees outside of Alaska. And just one more point, I think Max answered a lot of the questions, but one more point is that the sap is a really great possibility, just the birch sap as a product. The syrup itself is a niche product, but the sap is currently being used in breweries. The byproduct from reverse osmosis from the birch sap is being sold to soda companies. And just today, we're going to make a big shipment out to California with our fermented birch sap. So there's other products that are utilizing birch sap, particularly in Asia and in Europe. It's just starting now in the United States. So I thank you for considering this bill, and I hope to, I would love to be a part of the, have a voice in the rules, because it's true that there are so many similarities between birch and maple, but there are also some differences that need to be pointed out. So thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Representative Hall?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to just ask Mr. Romanishi, whereabouts you are in Temple. I'd like to come up, and you're in my district. I'd like to come up and talk with you and see your operation.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We're just off Day Mountain Road.
Okay, thank you.
Just past the Red Schoolhouse. I'll send you directions.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, be great to see you.
Are there other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next on my list is, I don't have anybody else in favor, so we'll move to against. I don't have any for that. So It's down to Julianne Smith, neither for nor against.
Morning, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and distinguished members of the committee. I'll begin with an apology. I clicked the wrong thing on the sign up, so we really are in favor of this bill, very much so. As many of you know, Maine Farm Bureau is the largest farmer-run advocacy organization in Maine, and we are a unique organization. We are grassroots, a voluntary membership association where farmers create, discuss, and decide our policies. This bill is a result of our grassroots process. Max Kocher is one of our members, and he serves on our Young Farmer Committee. His experience in producing birch syrup inspired him to request the legislation before you today. Max recognized that licensing requirements were necessary for producers to be able to apply for appropriate food production licenses and follow food safety protocols. Max brought his idea to Farm Bureau, and our members discussed and voted to support the creation of state regulations to license birch syrup. We are very excited to support Max's vision for this growing commodity and the future of Maine's agriculture. In addition to being excited to support this idea, we are equally excited to see our young farmers engaging in the legislative process. The bill's sponsor, Representative Marianne Kinney, was inspired to run for the legislature while serving on Maine Farm Bureau's Young Farmers Committee 1 or 2 years ago. Like all of you who are serving in Maine's legislature, Maine Farm Bureau believes in the importance of the legislative process, and we are grateful to all of you for continuing this work despite the challenges of COVID-19. We respectfully ask that you vote ought to pass on LD 416. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I miss seeing all of you in person, and I hope we will be able to continue our work in person again soon.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none. Mr. Robichaud, I'm not sure you sent us your testimony. Could you do that if you haven't sent us a written testimony?
I will do that. Yes, thanks.
Right, thank you. I see no other people on my list. Is that correct, Cheryl? Is that the end of our list?
That's the end of our list.
All right, well, thank you. Well, then I'll close the public hearing on LD 416, and thank you all for testimonies today. Karen would like to go over some language review for the committee, so we still got some work ahead of us this morning. So I'll turn it over to Karen.
Thank you. So yesterday I sent you all an email with 5 committee amendments attached to it. So I just wanted to go over those with you. I'll start with LD 204 actually. This is the committee amendment unanimous report, the law regarding the interest rate for state loans under the Potato Marketing Improvement Fund. And there is actually no change to what was presented at the work session, just the header is different. So I'm not expecting any questions on this one, but I just wanted to give you all an opportunity if you had any.
Thank you, Karen. Are there any questions for Karen on this one? All right.
Okay. The next one I'll do is LD 30. So this was, again, unanimous ought to pass as amended report, resolve authorizing the Bureau of Parks and Lands to convey a parcel in Augusta to the Maine Veterans Homes. And so what this amendment does, we heard at the work session that the director, Andy Cutco, asked that there be some sort of contingency. They have not done a notice of a public hearing or anything, and that is a requirement under Title 12, Section 1837, subsection 2. So I just alluded to that in Section 1 of the bill, and then added Section 2 that the authorization provided in Section 1 may be exercised only if the director of the Bureau of Parks and Lands first gives notice of the proposed conveyance under Section 1, and if a public hearing is requested by any party, the director holds a public hearing on the proposed conveyance as required by the statute I just cited. So that's that one.
All right, are there any questions for Karen? Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Karen, I'm sorry, I'm taking a little bit of, my wheels are turning, so I'm taking a little bit of time to catch up. I'm trying to remember, they had not posted notice that they were thinking about selling it.
Correct.
Okay, so we had to work it into our language that they were doing that. And does our language provide that they have to post it before they get the appraisals and all that?
They have to, the conveyance is contingent upon them providing public notice of the conveyance and providing an opportunity for the public hearing.
Okay, I don't know if I'm following that because we already had the public hearing.
No, I mean, their, administrative process, the department, kind of like rulemaking, so not the legislative public hearing. The law requires, so in Title 12, basically before requesting approval from the legislature, the director shall give notice of the proposed sale, exchange, or relocation and may hold a public hearing. A public hearing must be held by the director if requested by any party. That's how the statute reads, and they had not done that. So they asked that be included, that this conveyance, which was approved by the committee, to add that piece to make sure that they do provide that public notice about the conveyance. Are you following me?
I am, yeah. And I'm wishing that Director Cutco was here because my question is, can we require them to give the notice just as a procedural? It seems to be cleaner to me to give notice before you get it appraised and all that process-wise. And I'm thinking benefits to the state too, but I just didn't understand that might be in the language, so I didn't have the chance to ask him. But do folks follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I'm seeing it kind of like a chicken and egg thing because it's got to be done one way or the other. So, even if they have the appraisals, it doesn't do them any good until, notice goes out and a public hearing is held. It's just that they got the, in your case, what you just said, Maggie, they've got the two appraisals setting there. So when they go into the public hearing, the other way around, you'd have a public hearing without really knowing what the value of the land is technically, I guess. So it may be actually almost better doing it this way because you've got an appraisal and know the value. And that may make somebody's mind up differently. I don't know, knowing what the value of it is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Part of what I was thinking was just making sure the appraisal was appropriate and reflecting the value of the parcel. So.
Yeah, and I think they have to have, as Karen pointed out too, they each have someone come in and appraise. So
yes, it's the higher of the two.
Yeah, and they take the higher of the two. So
that's in the original bill.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Any other questions on this one? All right. Thank you, Karen.
Okay. I'll do LD 90 next. This one's pretty straightforward. So this is, again, unanimous, ought to pass as amended report. An act to amend the removal process applicable to the position of State Supervisor of the Forest Protection Unit of the Bureau of Forestry. So I believe it was Representative, it's Representative Schofield's bill, but he also had a suggestion to add a phrase in there that the Chief Forest Ranger is appointed from among the forest rangers of the department, which is similar language to the statute relating to the chief of the Maine Warden Service. So that's what the amendment does.
Questions for Karen?
And I did run this by the department and they said it looked good.
Great, thank you. Seeing no questions. All right, next.
The next one is the committee amendment to LD 34, an act to create the Maine Forestry Operations Cleanup and Response Fund. So you did already see an amendment that I had drafted for the bill sponsor, Senator Dill. We did some additional tweaks to the language just to kind of make it more clear that the funds are used by the department and they're dispersed only to pay the costs to contractors for the physical mitigation and remediation activities. So just to kind of clarify, it's not just a disbursement, but it's used by the department to essentially pay for contractors to do the work. And in paragraphs A and B under subsection 2, again, just a little bit of tweaking of the language from the original bill. The director shall seek recovery of all costs paid from the fund from the responsible party, rather than just recovery of disbursements. And then requests in paragraph B, requests by the department for reimbursement of costs paid from the fund, if not paid by the responsible party within 30 days of the request, may be turned over to the Attorney General for collection, etc. And then the last phrase is that the Bureau may file, rather than suit, the Bureau may file an appropriate action in district court for recovery of the costs paid from the fund. So just a little bit of clarification there. And I did run this by the department and they were fine with this.
And you think these were just kind of minor changes, nothing that we have to re-vote on, right?
Correct. Yeah. Doesn't change the intent of the bill, just makes it more clear how it works.
Okay, great. Thanks. Other questions for Karen? All right, seeing none. Next.
The last one I have for you is LD 36, an act to amend the definition of timber harvesting. So as you know, that we added, the committee voted, this is also a unanimous ought to pass this amended report. The department asked that we add an emergency preamble. There's no change there. Getting at this exception to the definition of timber harvesting was kind of some wordsmithing gymnastics. So we did sort of settle on kind of what the Maine Forest Products Council proposed. And after my legal reviewer looked at it, he was like, well, what does wood reclaiming operation mean? So we kind of went back to the drafting board, and this is what we agreed upon. And I did run this by Patty Cormier. I also sent it to Maine Forest Products Council. I did not hear back from them, but I'm assuming they're comfortable with it. So the sentence is, timber harvesting does not include reclaiming trees, logs, or bark from timber harvesting or other operations, including but not limited to retrieving submerged timbers from log drives or bark from bark piles, which is essentially what we heard was the concern that those kinds of operations would be included in the definition of timber harvesting.
Yep. Thank you. Are there questions for Karen? Seeing none. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll get
Anything
those
else?
on their way.
All right, so nothing else for us then today? Nope. Cheryl, anything else for us? No. Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn, please. Representative Landry, is there a second? Moved by Representative Landry and seconded by Representative Hall. All in favor? Unopposed? Thank you. See you
All right,
next.
have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye now.
See you guys.
Bye.